After centuries of silence, a single tremor passed through it. From inside the ancient Camellia, a faint light slowly began to seep out. The light gathered slowly along the shape of a single human form. Newly formed fingertips opened for the first time. Two eyes opened for the first time, soft amber spreading into the mist. The first cold breath scattered as white mist passed her lips. A tree of centuries now stood in the mist as a human shape. Bom-i looked down at her own hands, hands she had never seen. A strand of hair slipped between her fingers. It belonged to her. This was Dongbek Forest, the old land where Qi ran thickest. She took a single hesitant step forward. A single red blossom fell upon her shoulder. The mist told her nothing of where she should go. A small forest spirit caught sight of her and vanished into the brush. Bom-i stopped, not knowing why she had to stop. Beyond the mist, a dry branch broke beneath someone's step. Footsteps drew closer. Even the mist could not hide them. A hunter's hand closed firm around the bow. An arrow met the string. Its feathers trembled in the dawn air. The mist briefly lifted, and two gazes met for the first time. Across the hunter's face passed both fear and resolve. Bom-i did not know its weight. She only tilted her head slowly. The bowstring drew back slowly. She did not know what that sound meant. Whom it was aimed at, Bom-i never came to know. Where the bowstring had been, Bom-i walked on for a long time. At every step, red petals rose like a breath and settled again. On certain branches rested small kin that resembled her. Yet as she drew near, they scattered all at once. Bom-i gazed at her own hand for a long while. Why she was not the same, she was asking without ever asking. The forest gave no answer. It led her onto a deeper path. A nameless hunger began to press slowly upon her chest. Then beyond the mist, a small breath stopped her in her steps. Bom-i turned her head slowly toward that sound. On the grass lay a small human child, fallen and silent. Something so unlike her and so small she had never seen. Bom-i knelt slowly beside the small thing. Her hand hesitated for the first time, reaching toward another. And for the first time, she pulled someone close to her chest. A heart that had never trembled for the first time. Bom-i walked on for a long time. The small breath held to her chest. Beyond the mist, human rooftops appeared for the first time. Bom-i stopped at the village edge, sensing she could not enter. She lowered the small one carefully onto the grass near the village. For a moment, she looked into the small face with quiet wonder. Bom-i turned a step back into the mist, but at the bend of the path, a pair of eyes caught her. A single scream woke the whole village. Yokai! Bom-i did not know what the cry meant. It was a sound she had never heard. An arrow tore through the mist toward her. The instant it touched her shoulder, the arrow became a camellia and scattered. She touched her shoulder softly. No mark was left. The villager's footsteps came closer and closer. Bom-i looked one last time at that small face. Then she vanished quietly back into the forest mist. From her shoulder, a single red blossom fell into the mist. Bom-i drew away from the village's presence, deeper into the mist. A nameless weight slowly bent her knees beneath her. As she stretched her hand, a small petal slipped from her fingers. Then through the mist, a single old footstep was drawing near. The shadow of an old man came to a slow halt beside her. In his gaze, there was neither mockery nor fear. Without a word, he reached out and lifted her up. Where he lived was a small hermitage, near the edge of the celestial realm. Bom-i lay on a coarse mat, and the old man poured tea in silence. At last he asked, "Why is it that you cannot speak?" For the first time, Bom-i felt her lips could move. Her lips trembled once, then twice, and for the first time, one word escaped her. Spring. The old man smiled, ever so faintly. The first human smile she had ever seen. The single word spring was still warm inside her mouth. Muhyang showed her only one thing, a breath drawn in and let out. Bom-i followed that breath and felt, for the first time, a current within her. A faint light rose for the first time on her palm. The old man's eyes paused for the briefest moment. Inside her, a current like a small river awoke. From the dry earth of the yard, a single red blossom rose. Then another and another woke at the rhythm of her breath. Muhyang was witnessing something he had never seen. Bom-i opened her eyes slowly. Everything around her was full of blossoms. Just then, a cold beam of light fell straight into the center of the yard. From within that light, the shadow of a man slowly stepped down onto the yard. Across Mu Yang's face passed a faint tension for the first time. Bom, I looked up at that light with eyes seeing it for the first time. The cold light still lingered upon the yard. In the messenger's gaze, there was not a single trace of warmth for any soul. Bom, I met those eyes with eyes that had never seen such a thing. He raised one hand and let his words fall like a verdict. What awakens from nature shall not stand in the place of the celestial. Mu Yang stepped slowly forward, placing himself before her. He laid down a single line. This child stands beyond your measure. The messenger looked at him once. He gave no answer. Then he rose quietly back into the cold light. Bom-i held that single sentence quietly inside her. That night, Bom-i left the yard and walked once more into the forest. Out of the darkness, one who resembled her stepped slowly forward. At the corner of his mouth hung a faint smile, neither human nor not. He spoke to her for the first time. "Don't you want to be real?" Before that single line, Bom-i looked into her own heart for the first time. That question, asking if she wished to be real, still hung close. Bom-i looked at his hand without fear. Not by fear, but by her own heart, Bom-i followed that hand. He led her deep into the mountain, to a cave of forgotten breath. Inside, many strange presences unlike her own were gathered. Bom-i looked at each of them, slowly, one by one. Guiyong told her slowly why they had all gathered. The cave walls were filled with forgotten ancient marks. When she touched them, the marks shone in time with her breath. Guiyong's eyes lingered a moment on the light at her fingertips. Bom-i gazed at the light, then slowly drew her hand back. Her eyes saw it, yet they did not follow it. At that moment, the half-smile at Guiyong's mouth wavered, ever so slightly. For the first time, Bom-i was setting something down by her own heart. In the deepest place she had chosen to enter, a forgotten rite was just beginning. Bom-i stood quietly at its center. From behind her, Guiyong let a single word fall. The rite's breath began to gather slowly toward her, but Bom-i did not follow it. She followed her own breath. From her lips, her own name came forth for the first time. "I am Bom-i." With that single line, blossoms woke all at once beneath her feet. In an instant, the cave's walls and ceiling filled with a tide of blossoms. Across Guiyong's face passed a faint, unfamiliar fear. At its center, Bom-i was at last wearing the shape of herself. Her breath imitated no one. It was, for the first time, her own. Guiyong raised one hand to stop it. Bom-i's blossoms did not strike him. They softly enfolded his shadow. The cave was full of her breath, and within it, she was herself. That name was still warm inside her mouth. Beyond the mist, the village she had once left rose into view again. Bom-i stopped again at the grass where she had once set the small one down. But on that spot, a single bowl had been quietly placed. Beside it lingered the marks of older bowls, many of them. The knowing that someone had been waiting for her rose in her heart for the first time. Then from the village, a grown child came walking slowly forth. She stopped the moment she saw Bom-i. She had not forgotten. The moment their eyes had first met rose between them once more. But cutting through that moment, the villagers' shouts broke in. The crowd advanced toward them, weapons in hand. Bom-i no longer wavered before them. The grown Yonai stepped slowly forward, in front of her. Upon that small face floated a memory that had never been forgotten. The grown child spread her two small hands and shielded her. The village's stir froze in an instant before one child's small hands. For the first time, she spoke to the people. "This one saved me." Before that single line, every weapon lowered all at once. Bom-i, for the first time, laid her hand softly upon that small shoulder. And for the first time, she spoke her own name. "I am Bom-i." Above that single line, the meadow woke one blossom at a time. The villagers, looking on, could no longer find fear in themselves. The grown child looked up at Bom-i and smiled faintly. At last, Bom-i turned slowly back toward her own forest. Deep in the forest, Mu Hyang was waiting for her in silence. Bom-i handed Muhyang a single trace, a mark of forgotten ages. Muhyang took it and smiled once faintly. It was the last smile he gave her. Then Bom-i disappeared slowly into the deepest part of her own forest. From that day on, they say, the camellia forest within never lost its blossoms. Join the myth, subscribe and like.